Welcome to the virtual temple complex. Join us for a moment of meditation and reflection. Let your fears and anxieties flow away. We enter a sacred space of healing and growth. We are protected from nefarious forces that wish to impede upon our growth and healing. Welcome to the virtual temple complex.
Welcome to the virtual temple complex. We got a very special show today. We're gonna have people join us intermittently throughout the show, but we've got Nathan with us, and why don't you introduce us to our new friend here, the other Nathan?
Okay. Well, this is the other Nathan in the community. I think there's two of us. Well, maybe three, but we're still looking for number three. But this is Nathan Simmons, and he reached out to me a couple of months ago, I think, and then I lost track of my emails. So he reached back out to me, and I was waiting to hear from him because I'd mentioned something with some interview that I did. If I didn't reach out to you and I missed you, to contact me back. But regardless of how he heard it, he may have heard it inside or that way. He reached back out to me, and here he is, and we're really thankful to have you here, Nathan. You haven't came forward yet, so I guess while we're here waiting for everybody else, would you like to tell everybody about yourself a little bit? And there's a bit of feedback going on. You hear that?
Yeah, I got headphones on. I hope it's not me. I'll mute just in case.
It normally is me. It might be you, Nate. I'm not sure because I have a voice canceling microphone.
I'm running everything off my phone because I would have had to upgrade my computer software. I just didn't feel like doing it. Can you still hear it?
Yeah. Are you able to mute yourself when we're talking, and then that way, when you talk, I'll take and mute myself.
Okay. You
That'll
want me to
work.
mute myself now, or you want me to introduce myself?
No, I want you to, if you can hear me, I want you to introduce yourself. But while I'm talking, like if you can mute yourself or with anybody else is talking too, because we're getting feedback.
All right. Well, hello, I'm Nathan. I'm 41 years old. I really don't know where to start. I actually thought about trying to do this because I figured you'd ask this question. Have lived quite an interesting life. I don't know where to start. I was an international DJ for 20 years. Worked with house music, stage lighting. That was my life and that was my passion. And they kind of crashed that when I was 30, and couldn't really figure out why they crashed it. I didn't know that they were crashing it, but now looking back, that's exactly what was going on, and everything was falling apart. Um, a lot of the heavy targeting started around like when I was 33 with the gang stalking and the voice to skull. I got a bad accident in Key West. They airlifted me to Miami. It was a whole hoopla, but after that, definitive voice to skull started in on me. Um, I used to call them mind parasites, where I would just be walking by and I would see a knife and the knife would be stabbed into my leg, or I'd look at my cigarette and it would go out on my leg, and they were screaming at me, and I was all this craziness. Um, and then they destroyed my life in West Virginia. I live in a giant 40-foot motorhome, and I've been for 10 years just running around the United States. Thought I could try and find some place peaceful, and I found a moniker of peace here. But um, I built a really great life for me for 4 years in West Virginia, and they collapsed that and literally made the entire
Wait a
town
minute,
just
where are
like,
you from? Okay, okay. Do you know about Harper's Ferry?
yeah, yeah,
I had that town come into my mind today for some
yeah.
reason. Um, do you live near there or anything like that, or
Oh
did you?
no, I don't now. You know, like I was just saying, I live in a giant 40-foot motorhome, and my parents decided to retire up in Tennessee, and I love Appalachia, so I came back up here. But in between then,
But
I've
you're
been
familiar with the area because I'm just curious about it because I had this.
not too much. I was in Fayetteville by the New River Gorge Bridge. You know,
Okay.
um, but yeah, and that situation in West Virginia broke me. I thought I got broken with my first love bite when I was 19 and I tried to kill myself. I thought I got broken when they destroyed my DJ career, but that in West Virginia, it broke me. And then they ushered me into the hands, and I wound up in a cult in Montana through COVID, which broke me again and broke me again. And they just break you, you know. I, I've even had the thoughts of reaching out to you guys and connecting and doing this, because it's like every time I try and develop something that feels good and that is loving, or relationships or friendship, they just break me. And that's what they do. But I am a resilient person, and it's
No, we
kind
all
of,
we all have to be is the irony of it.
yeah. And I'm not allowed by them to have lovers or close friendships. I have worked very hard to maintain a loving relationship with my family members, and that is good. And I had to work really hard to get it back, though, because they were doing a real good job of it. But I got that back. But yeah, the dreams that I've had, um, and this is, I don't claim to be my labs or SSP or stuff like that, but if I was to describe the dreams I've been in, the ops I've been on, the sexual prostitution, the rape, what I call a spiritual rape happened to me one time. All, you name it, man. Just all of it. And but yeah, in the dreams, I call them, like there's three different frequencies of the dreams. One's a real dream, one's a manufactured dream, and one's like an op where I'm like somewhere else and I'm gone and I'm doing these military things. But this was when I first reached out to Nathan, because I was watching all of his material and everything was just flashing to me. And I started weeping for uncontrollably for 2 days straight, because I realized that I was a killer, and I could see it and I knew it and I had to own that. And that connect didn't happen then, but I'm here now, so it's all good. But it's just it's all of it, and just used, abused, tortured, raped across the board, um, over and over and over again. But
Do you think that this is happening probably in clone bodies?
um, I don't know. I listen to some of you guys, and you've retrieved some of your memories and stuff like that. I have my dreams. I've had some visions. I was describing to Nathan last night where I've had situations where I was in the shower one time and I closed my eyes and I was projected in my mind's eye, and I was in this room and there was three guys on one side and three guys on the other. And as soon as I appeared, or what felt like I arrived there, they all turned and acknowledged that I was there. They were very surprised that I was there, and they responded to that. And I opened my eyes and I'm like, these guys are fucking with me with those computers right now. So I shut my eyes and I went back there and I was throwing chairs at them as they were running out of the room. And then I opened my eyes, and Nathan was suggesting that like I could have been in another body at that, or I don't know if I was portaling there listening to some of your stuff, or I have no idea. I make no claims to any of this. I have these experiences and these visions and these dreams and all of this kind of stuff, and it's alarming. But when that happened, there was another situation where I was laying in my bed, and same kind of stuff where I portaled somewhere, and because they were fucking with me, and it's like I traced the line back to them, and it was some woman laying in a pool of water with some helmet on her head and her eyes was closed. Think Minority Report. It looked like that. And I knew it was her that was fucking with me. And I pulled her out of the pool of water and I slammed a knife through her head. And then I turned around and two guys were running in. They were unloading clips at me. And I just kind of jumped back out of it. But when those two situations happened, the harassment backed off heavily. It was the only thing I could say was like, they were like, oh shit, he figured out how to do this or something of that nature. And then I started to have no fear of, once I got over the fear of all this stuff and it didn't really affect me anymore. There's tricks that don't affect me anymore. A lot of it stopped, but I'm still fucked with, I'm still pushed and prodded. People are pushed and prodded against me, gaslit, all of that shit. But yeah, that's a lot of it in a nutshell. I think like all of you, I could sit here for hours upon hours and just go through all of it, but it's not my show. So, but thank you for having me.
No, we've all talked before and opened up before, so don't mind if you have to take the floor a lot during this. We kind of all want to hear your story, and I'm sure the audience does too. So you don't have to feel bad about that at all. And we really appreciate you being here and willing to share that all with us because it's not exactly easy to do. So thank you for opening up with us, opening up to us, and sharing that with us.
Yeah. What?
And remember, this is your first step, and there's that feedback again. But
Yeah.
I just want to say this is your first step, so this is a biggie, and I want you to know that we're all here to support you. So take as much time as you want to, and there'll be more people showing up. So everybody needs to hear about your story. So I'm going to go mute myself.
Well, you could kind of like, I've been tracking some of this back. I come from a military family. Grandfather was high-ranking Navy. Dad was Navy. And looking at my dad's life, I can see all of the manipulation there. Grew up in Hampton Roads, Virginia, which is a military-induced nightmare. From Norfolk to Little Creek Amphib Base to Langley Air Force Base, Fort Eustis, it's all right there. And I'm just smack dab in the middle of it. And around the fourth grade, all of a sudden I was what I like to call sexually activated. And all of a sudden I was like, I like boys. Don't know why. I still have searched my whole life where that came from. But, and then that all happened. And then I was graduating high school, and both the Navy and the Air Force really, 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 really wanted me to join. I was like, I'll join. I want to fly jets. And they're like, we don't want you to fly jets. We want you to be in special intelligence. And I was like, nah. And I still don't know why, but I think I know why now. but I just figured it was my ASVAB testing or something. So I put my middle fingers up at them and went to Florida. I was like, fuck you, I'm going to be a DJ. So I went and did that. And my first lover, who turned out to be a raging pedophile, wound up in jail. I tried to kill myself when I was 19. And when I woke up in that hospital bed, and they were in my ear. I know I heard they were in my ear then, I can remember. But I woke up in the hospital bed and no one was there. And so I started crying because I knew nobody was there. So I decided from that moment that if nobody was going to love me, that I was going to love me. And I basically turned into a raging narcissist all through my 20s and went through this sex, drugs, and rock and roll DJ phase. And shortly after I tried to kill myself, I was arrested. I was a big drug dealer in the club scene and stuff, and I did a year in jail. You know, you go through your life and there's certain statements that people make to you, but one that stuck out was when I was in jail, 3 different guards, independent of each other, that didn't know me, they all looked at me and said, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I messed up." And they're like, "You don't belong here." But I always took that as some kind of message, like, I don't belong in this world. I'm not from this world. This isn't my home. It's never felt like home. But you know, you go through stuff, and I started approaching my late 30s, and I'm not my early 30s, my late 20s. I'm sorry, started approaching my late 20s, and it's funny because I listened to Dan a few nights ago on. I have a similar kind of story, you know. Big politically connected boyfriend. Um, you know, I was the rock star DJ. He was highly influential, a lot of money and stuff like that. And it was funny because I was listening to your astrological chart, and I also have Mars conjunct Saturn in the 12th house, and basically my chart is completely in opposition and against me 100%. But anyway, late 20s, and it was the height of my DJ career. I was doing crowds of, you know, 15,000 and big festivals and stuff like that. But I was at the club one night, and it was like 1 a.m. And I used to work with, you know, house music, progressive, really deep, dark driving progressive. And something flipped in me, and I just stopped. And I was like, I don't want this anymore. I want the love. I want something uplifting. And within 3 or 4 tracks, I changed that whole mood in that room, and I lit that room on fire with this just vocals of love and life and happiness and all this kind of stuff. And the owner runs up into the booth, and he was like, "What are you doing? This is amazing." I was like, "That's the love. They're starving for it, and I'm going to give it to them." And within a few months after that night, people I worked with, managers, club owners, all of this, it all started to change and fall apart. They didn't want me anymore. It just all fell apart. I don't know what I did, and all I could assume was I went off program. I went off script, and I started putting my middle fingers up, and that's what it looked like. Um, I left that boyfriend. My dad died of a heart attack, and you know, the world was, it was just bad. That was 2012, you know, and I always marked that as something shifted at that 2012 New Year's for sure. But I was home with my mom, and she's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I don't know." She was like, "Buy an RV and go." I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm doing that." So I bought an RV and went up to West Virginia. And the targeting, it got worse, and the gang stalking got worse, and all of it just got worse, and it just got worse and worse. And as it got worse, I started reaching and really deeply diving into religion and spirituality and all of these things and understanding it. And I was learning from an individual whose name shall not be named, just because I wouldn't want any backlash from that situation. But during COVID was starting to hit, and he lived on 20 acres in the middle of nowhere in Montana. And I didn't want to be anywhere near these cities. I didn't care about the virus, but people were crazy. You could feel the energy. And he was like, "Come on out here." And I was like, all right. So I went out there, and within 2 or 3 weeks, me and my friend Michelle both went. There was about 6 or 7 of us that went. It turned into a cult very quickly, and you could tell it was a cult. But not only was it a cult, but I was in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone reception, no internet, no nothing. And the worst targeting I've ever experienced happened there, in my dreams. Some of the darkest moments of my life, of realization of what was going on and how it was being targeted, and all of these frequencies and how they do it and how they suck you into different realities in your dreams and push you on ops. And um, I experienced.
Nathan, this sounds like a horror movie. Like seriously, like not only are you in the middle of nowhere with a cult, is that cult attached at all to the programs and then like the dreams, or there's like two? I was just wondering.
While I was there, I would say no, but me and my friend Michelle did a little backtracking and understanding who this man was and where his life and where he came from. He was in the IDF a long time ago. He was connected with all of that. So we were like, this must have been a project or something was going on there. But one dream that, and waking up from this dream, I never felt darkness ever darker in my life, and the frequency in my motorhome was so dark. And I just went to the front of the, and I grabbed my dog and I just held her for 30 minutes. I couldn't even cry. I was like, wow. But I was in this dream, and it was apocalyptic. And I was going up to this house, and for some reason I saw a window, and I was trying to call through this window, and I couldn't fit. So I got back out, and when I turned to my right, there was a plainclothes guy with his eyes closed with a trident in his forehead. And he was saying, "You're becoming more and more valuable every day." And then a voice over my right shoulder said, "Again, you're becoming more and more valuable every day. Again, you're becoming more and more valuable every day. Again." And I woke up, and I knew whatever was going on there, that I caught them with their pants down. I caught them. I caught them with whatever they were doing, psychic driving me or psychic programming me or whatever. But I don't think I've ever been more afraid in my life. It was very, very dark and very, very scary. And within 24 hours, I went into this guy's house and I was like, I'm leaving. I'm leaving in 2 days. I'm out of here. And the first thing he said to me, he said, "You can't leave. You're valuable." And I knew right then. I don't know if he was part of it. I don't know if he's being psychically driven. I don't know, but I almost lost my shit. I was like, I'm leaving. I don't know what's going on. Then I started researching more because, I've been into the whole aliens, UFOs, ancient cultures. I've read all, I've done that, but every time, since I was a kid, I was into aliens and stuff. And every time I come to it, and I think they condition me or they do something to me, I'm really getting into it, and then they just flip me. And they're like, this isn't real, blah, 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 what the fuck ever, go on with your life. And then I come away from it. But this time I went really into it. And this is when I started to come across this SSP stuff and the frequencies that they're using, and mind control and all that shit, So, not that I didn't know about mind control. I think I was 23 and I came across Kathy O'Brien's book, and I think I read 4 pages of it. And I wanted to vomit. And I tried to convince myself that that wasn't real. There's no way that that could be real. But I know, and I think all of you probably attested this, when you start to look into that darkness, you try and convince yourself that it's not real, but then you realize it is. And you just keep looking farther and farther and farther into it, and realizing the horror show that this place is. But as a good friend that's in a band called Big Something said in one of his tracks, the brightest light, it always comes from the darkest places. And that's why I lean into the darkness now, and I want to see it and understand it inside of me, and what it all is and what's going on. Because, like I said at the beginning, there's nothing left to lose now. I gotta know what's going on. but I claim no labels. I claim no. I don't know if I'm SSP. I don't know about any of this, but one thing I know I am divine love, and that is what I am at my core. And as long as I hold on to that, I'll be okay. So.
That's the key to it. That's the part of you, that's the God spark inside you that they try to take away. So it's extremely important that we all focus on that aspect of ourselves and hold on to it, no matter what they do to us, no matter how much trauma we have to endure or whatever else they put us through, mind control or otherwise. We have to fight to hold on to that part of ourself that they're trying to take away, because otherwise we'll wind up, like the Greys and like some of the people that are out there in this world who seem to be soulless and have no conscience whatsoever. That's what they want to make us into. So we have to hold on to that. Well, anyway, thank you, Nathan, for everything that you shared, and we support you. So we're all here for you. I just want you to know that. And you found a community and the beginning of a movement that you can work in and actually get something out of this, so your suffering wasn't in vain, and you can feel like you're part of something and be empowered by it. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, your testimony is extremely powerful, and we really appreciate you sharing it with us. And at these beginning stages where you're figuring things out, it's kind of just eye opening, because I think a lot of us have been there and know what it's like to be at that phase. I also wanted to welcome Susan on the show, and of course Dan and Brian have joined us as well. But I think this is Susan's first time on the virtual temple complex, so just wanted to say welcome to Susan.
Well, it's actually her second time, but we didn't
She was
hear
on
from
here
her
before?
last.
Oh yeah, she was here for the one with Pat. Duh. Well,
Yeah.
still, I want to welcome
again.
I still want to welcome everybody that just joined us. So, I don't know if you know everybody, Nathan.
Hey, she's having mic problems, by the way. She just texted me, so that's where she's
okay,
at.
that's what's going on.
I've been watching y'all guys for about a year and a half now. You guys, thank you for everything. Yeah, but but yeah, with Dan, I was watching you the other day, man, and I was all like, dude, like he had his lover, and that lover was connected, and we've got this like similar thing going in our chart. And I was like, I want to talk to him.
Good. That's awesome, and just amazing testimony. Thank you. That was really powerful, and I don't even consider it your beginning. I mean, it seems like you've got some of the key things figured out. When you said that your love, I mean, that's that's our goal here, right? It's just being secure with that, regardless of what's thrown at us. So, good on you, because I think we all need that reminder, regardless of where we're at in our journey. It's really important. So thank you.
Now, Nathan, you mentioned similarities between your journeys, your testimonies with Dan here, and Arkim and I have gotten, among other people in our community, interviewed Dan about the space Mormons, or secret space Mormons rather. Hi, Priscilla. And I wanted to ask, so then in terms of that testimony, do you have recall of being brought into these programs at a young age? And then may I ask, what have you been able to reconstruct, whether here on Earth or off planet or anything like that?
I think I was around 3. We were living in Dahlgren, Virginia. Some of my earliest memories. I have a memory that I was falling asleep at night, and then I have the memory that I was floating outside. I could feel the breeze on my face, but I wouldn't open my eyes because there was something in me that knew if I opened my eyes, whatever was making me fly through the air would know that I was awake, and I wanted to keep on experiencing this because I knew I was flying. I have that memory. Some of the dreams, but there's too many to account for. There was one dream years ago, and it was an ops dream, and I was with 2 other guys, and we were kind of like in this old village, and there was like this cobblestone square like tower, and we were like over here like scoping it out, and we were on an op to kill someone that was in that tower. And the guys were talking, and they're like, "Are you sure he's up there?" I was like, "Yeah, that he's up there. That's where we had sex 3 nights ago." And like, I even recognized when I was in the dream, I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You had 3 nights ago? What?" But anyway, all of a sudden, the entity, and we never visual, or I never saw it, but it came out onto the balcony, out onto the terrace, and so we hid. And it knew that I was there, and in a reptilian hissing voice, it said my name. And it freaked me out. And as it said it, I looked over my right shoulder, and off in the distance, there was this massive constructed hole in the ground. It was like a spaceport because I could see down inside of it, and there were UFOs and flying objects coming in and out of it. It was like a hangar that was deep down in the ground. And then I woke up, and I was like, well, what the hell is that? I had a dream one night. I was with 2 guys again, and we were like at this old monastery, and me and this other guy were outside, and what felt like in the dream, the other guy was inside planning explosives to blow the place up. That's what I knew was going on. And then he come running out, and he said, "Run." And we ran, and we got in the Jeep, and we're hauling ass like at 50 miles an hour. And then some monk guy with like one of the white collar things the priest wears, dude, we're doing like 40 or 50 miles an hour. And this guy is running and pacing the Jeep. And while he's pacing it, he's bashing in the passenger door where I'm sitting. And it's denting in, and the third hit, it dented in, and it slammed into my leg, and I woke up, and I still felt all the pain from that. Those are some of the ops. There's more. I've been sexually pimped out, definitely more so in my 20s and mid 30s, in my dreams, used sexually in my dreams, grotesquely, and raped, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really have memories of, there was another memory, and it was a dream, and I was at this jail, and there were all these guards everywhere, and I was going there to visit one of my friends, and none of the guards would pay attention to me and help me, so I just started walking through the walls. And it freaked all of these guards out to no end. They just started to run amok and leave. And I was like, what's going on? That's a dream. There was another dream, and this was right before I left for Montana. And I felt like all this was leaving. That was when I was heavily, heavily, heavily gang stalked right before COVID hit and left for Montana. And my friend Michelle was visiting me. She was here that night. But in the dream, I was in a bathtub, and I was being electrocuted and tortured, and it stopped, and I started to crawl up out of the bathtub. And as I crawled up, I lifted my head up, and there was a mirror there, and I saw the mirror, and my left eye was a robotic eye, and it was hanging out of its socket, and I could see inside the electronics in my head. And I just looked in the mirror, and I just said, "That's not me." And I woke up, and I was kind of fucking freaked the fuck out. And she was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No, fucking talk to me." And I just like went and walked for like 5 miles in the middle of the night, because I don't know what the fuck was going on. That was a time when they like to microwave me from the inside out, and while I was laying in my bed. And when I moved to Tennessee one time, I was really, really, really sick. It was a bad kidney infection. And I was laying in the bed, and I was just weeping. It was really, really bad. And I sent out a prayer, and I'm not even a prayer. I don't call upon entities. I don't do any of that, but I did, because it was bad. And I felt an entity come into the room, and I felt warmth and comfort for about 10 seconds, until that entity took its hand and ran it up the back of my thigh and squeezed my ass. And then I just kind of got even more infuriated. And I was like, I can't even call on help. And it was just, what are you going to do? I'm just rolling through all these experiences and things that have happened. I'll be talking with my neighbors or whatever, and we're good. We have good relation, and what I'll just be in the middle of a sentence while we're having conversation, and they'll just like look at me, turn, and walk away, and I'm like,
what do you attribute, if I may, Nathan?
They have that much control over all. I know that some of us are much more vulnerable to it, but I watch it with my mother, I watch it with my sister, and how they take them and push them against me and prod me to make me think that nobody cares about me. That's what I've thought my entire life. Nobody loves me. Nobody gives a shit about me. No, just all of it. I remember being young and walking down the sidewalk and looking at an ant and just wishing that I could have been that ant rather than here in this fucking place for some
Nathan,
reason.
Nathan, if I may, just throw in some commentary here,
Sure.
because thank you for sharing with everybody, because what you're describing it's basically a testimony for how it's not like you just get your memories back and you understand everything. It's like you're getting these flashbacks and dreams, and they're traumatic and they're triggering, and you're watching shows like this, and a lot of the things, like maybe you were in the gifted and talented program, or you had family who are in the military, like you're saying, or in Virginia area, things start to add up or stack up where it becomes more than just coincidental.
Yeah.
And at the same time, just to provide some context, a lot of this, and this is what I was trying to figure out when I was just getting involved in the community here about 2.5 years ago now, and I'm just trying to make sense of this. Like, why are the targeted individuals so heavily targeted, and what is this all about?
Yeah.
And the reason why is by keeping all of us star seeds or light workers, experiencers, would-be whistleblowers and whistleblowers at that beat down state. It's keeping us on a lower timeline. It's keeping our manifestation powers, which would ultimately lead to disclosure, among other things, down at bay. And then the sexual misery, and then it's all part of that transhumanism and Luciferianism, where they're just trying to like hurt us. And so, just some context for why. And then many people who are directly involved in our lives, it seems like each family only got 1, maybe 2 star seats, like max. I think it's kind of like we're like Christmas lights on a string, but you don't like leave us clumped together. You kind of like spread us all out. So then that means that a lot of the non-star seed people, and I'm not saying, oh, we're better or whatever, but if they seemed to be more stuck in the 3D matrix and susceptible to the voice to skull crap, especially the misery programming stuff. Whereas people who might be star seeds, or for whatever reason less susceptible, you're going to be sharing your heartfelt emotions and testimony, and they could get, we could get beamed with it. Oh, just click off now, but that's not going to work on us. Whereas maybe your own flesh and blood, unfortunately, and I can testify to that, kind of blow you off.
Well, like I had another dream, and this is just the only part of the dream I remembered. All I remember was there was a woman, and she was saying, "Nathan, you've been at this for 20,000 years." And I woke up, and I'm like, "Been at what for 20,000 years?" I had another dream. I believe this was probably a past life memory that probably crept through, but and I had no idea at this time. It was a long time ago. Didn't know what emerald tablets were. I didn't know who taught. I didn't know any of it. But I was being shown these emerald tablets in the stream, and I'm looking at them with this foreign writing, and it was very, very, very vivid. And I woke up and I just Googled emerald tablets, and the whole toss stuff came up, and I was like, I don't know what the hell that was. But in the dream, maybe it was a past life memory, and that's kind of like what I'm talking about. I can't really differentiate. I don't know.
It's kind of like with the Harper's Ferry thing today, and you talking about, because you're bringing up West Virginia and me asking about that. when I got that, like I didn't know what it was. I was like, is that like a ferry to a place? That's what I assumed. It was like a boat, a ferry that went somewhere. And but anyway, I want to also welcome Priscilla to the show.
Cool.
I haven't had this time for real. I haven't had her on the show. She's new. So just if you want to introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, hi everybody. I'm Priscilla. Well, I'm part of the programs like everybody here. Sorry, everybody. It's my first time here. I'm really happy to be with you guys. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you said that really like. It seems that um, everybody goes through the same things but different. You know, like it's kind of the same but it's different. So you have really things that like the left eye. That was like to me. Yeah, I always look at my left eye in the mirror and I'm always like, that one's not. It's not kosher. You know, like it's got something. You know, it's just like things that you kind of know. So basically, yeah, we have to like, yes, talk about everything and, you know, but we have to try to do something about it as best we can, you know, little things, and we all trying to do what we can, you know, like this is a big thing and it's really uh nebulous, you know, like sometimes you think you understand and then you're like, maybe not. You know, so it's always like changing, it's fluctuating, and it's always like the timeline's changing also. It's really like a how you call that, temporal wars. Like, you know, you think that you like people will say, okay, well, less now, but you know, we would hear maybe like last year, okay, now this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and now it's like everybody's like waiting, like we don't really know, like everything's crazy, right? So let's hope disclosure, you know, let's hope something, anything really, right? So
It's going to say Susan. There was like a shared experience. I forget what it was now. That she might have with Nathan, and the left eye thing. You know, we were
yeah.
talking about the Hulk programs and the cybernetics, and for some
Mhm.
reason they seem to appreciate going into people's left eyes. And I think
Yeah,
we
for
talked about
sure.
that a
There's
bit.
something about it, you know, like when I look at it, like you have to look without looking, really. Like you just look next to it a little bit, because if you look directly at it, it acts all normal, you know. It's like everything else. And also when you said what did you say? Multiple things that you said, that it's like, you know, we go through these things, everybody, I think. Mhm.
Sounds like there's bugs crawling on your microphone.
Yeah, it
Oh,
sounds like a
really?
chipmunk or something, man, eating.
Oh, I'm so
Like,
sorry. Is it better like that? Please tell me.
no, it's still there. It sounds like a little chipmunk's tearing open peanuts and
How about like that?
like the shell crack.
Is this okay like that? It might be like mine.
It's a little bit
Actually,
less.
that is better. Yeah,
Okay.
like
But
some weird
like,
interference.
So yeah, the dreams also like, oops, sorry. Yeah, when you said, you know, like you saw like the emerald tablets. Me, I had a dream about Quetzalcoatl, and I didn't know what Quetzalcoatl was. I had to look it up, and our team also. Am I pronouncing it right? Yeah, you know, we have to look up stuff on internet, you know. So like, and then you look it up, and you're like, wow, you can't make this shit up, right? So you don't really need anybody else's confirmation. You really get it yourself. So we can just like look at the others and see, oh, that's parallel to me. That's like kind of confirmation, but it's really like us. We have to. I feel that all this is not for nothing. That we remember this not for nothing neither. You know, there's a good purpose to that, for us to embody like our higher selves, our more powerful selves, you know. And I believe also that with the sun and everything, all this has, you know, like crazy good and bad. So I mean, you know, there's always both sides of everything. So we have to try and navigate it.
Priscilla, I want to ask regarding Quetzalcoatl. Have you made a connection from now that, you know, that's definitely a complicated name to just pull out of nowhere, and understanding that's like known as a feathered flying serpent from like Aztec lore,
Yeah,
among
exactly.
other
And I
things.
swear, okay, 2 days before that, I was seeing, and me, I have no reference points. I'm like, I'm seeing My Little Pony, but punk. Like I was laughing because I was starting to wake up, and I was like, when I saw him, like the plumed, multicolor serpent, I was like, wow. I was like, I cannot. Like I was just saying yesterday about the My Little Pony punk thing, you know. So yeah, Quetzalcoatl is really like light bringer. Like in their mythologies, they all have the same archetypes, if you want, or gods or whatever that I've observed. You know, that's my observation. And Quetzalcoatl would be like, you know, Prometheus or like Jesus or Buddha, whatever. I won't go too deep into that.
When in Chinese mythology, we also have like the long dragons that kind of
Yeah,
look very similar. And what I told is that you also have like there are these benevolent, wise dragon beings,
yeah,
and then
it's
there are
wisdom.
the
Yeah,
fallen, right? So you got the good and the bad, and then
yeah,
so the
that's what I'm
higher
saying.
incarnations have wisdom to share, and it might
Mhm.
be possible you have a connection some way somehow in a
Yeah,
lifetime to that type of being.
yeah, everything is the same. It's just like we're a fractal universe, right? And like even I don't know, um, everything is like you know, like to say the Greek gods or um religion. Every story says the same thing if you look at it, you know. And there's always like here, it's both sides, it's push and pull. So I believe that for us is to kind of work with it, work with all of it without, you know, saying that's bad, that's good, or whatever. Just trying to, you know, bring it together. Because even with the law of one, like you guys know the law of one, like the raw material with the okay. So he says that even the negative ones after six density, they come around because they have so much wisdom that you're like, you gotta be maybe that they're not so nice, but they're like neutral. So
Hey, there is something weird. I'm trying to keep a straight face. It sounds like there's a handler, a big slob of an NSA handler or somebody eavesdropping, eating Cheetos and farting and belching. Does anybody else hear this?
in my
Yeah,
mind,
that's literally what it sounds like. It
No,
literally
it's what. Yeah,
I
sounds
can't
just
hear it.
it's oh God. Oh yeah, you wouldn't be able to keep a straight face if you heard it because I'm sitting here. I'm like trying to keep my composure, and it's like I don't want to be rude. It's not you. It's whatever's that sound is. It doesn't sound normal.
Like this whole screen, I feel like I'm on Hollywood Squares. It's like-
I'll stop talking after because of the noise and
Okay,
everything. But I just want
that's
to
okay.
I just want to say that I'm being targeted like really like crazy, like insanity. Like they have no life, these people.
And now the noise is gone, by the
It's
way.
gone. Oh,
We
by
don't
the
hear
way,
it anymore.
you know why? Because I did this. I used some of my tools to. This is a broadcast ring with the neutralization ring.
I think we need to put their neck in there and tighten those
On the
screws.
computer. Yeah, so we'll be okay now. I was doing it earlier because it was really bad at the beginning, but it just came to my mind. Oh,
He's chewing again.
I am sorry.
here, wait a sec. We'll be okay. That's
so like I've got kind of like a side thing I want to put out there because it's a theory that I've been pushing around and looking at for a while now. I mentioned it to one of my friends. The best way to start the description, Akeem is Arcame. Is it Arcame? I'm sorry,
Arkeem.
Arkeem. You've worked with music, so you might understand. Back in the day, before the digital revolution and stuff, if you were a DJ producer and you wanted to do a remix of a track, but the record company wouldn't give you the copyright or wouldn't sell it to you to get the parts of the track where if they give it to you, you know, you got the acapella and the guitars and the piano and everything split apart so you can take all those parts and work with it and do a remix of it. But if you couldn't get that, the garage way you could do it was to get a copy of the track on vinyl and get an exact instrumental copy of the track on vinyl and play them in time. Exactly. And when you do that, the music cancels each other out and you're just left with the acapella, right? So if you could visualize that in frequency mode, because all is frequency, light is frequency, sound is frequency. These two frequencies are coming together and canceling each other out, right? I read a book. I don't know if anybody's come across it. I call it the heinous book because it's rather heinous. It's called 334% Lies. But won't get into Who, What, When, Where, Why of the book, but he's talking about in there, and I knew it to be true, that darkness, and I went, and again, this is a theory, and I'm pushing it all around, but darkness, visually, it's not real. It's an illusion. It's two lights coming together and canceling each other out to create the shadow. We are light, our body, the DNA, it's light. And so when the sun shines at us, it cancels out our light and it casts a shadow behind us. And I've been working with this theory based on Luciferianism, satanic and stuff like that. But these people take this frequency light in, or knowledge in, and it cancels out their light and creates darkness. And this is like, I'm just throwing it out there to y'all because I know this to be true, that light darkness is illusion. All is light. Everything is light. And I keep on kicking this around, just trying to look at the world at a better angle sometimes, and just being like, oh, they're just in their dark phase, and they'll figure it out. But I don't know. What say you? It's just an interesting theory I've been kicking around.
Apparently, a lot of these service to self types who are still do or die, and they're the types of people to take advantage of little people and dumbs and stuff like that. I've heard that they're being set up to be reincarnated. Some of them, there's like a prison planet that's kind of like depicted in the movie Pitch Dark or Pitch Black, where it's like this alien world. It's like a desert world. It's really already harsh and barren. But then once every 10 years, there's like a 2-year or 1-year eclipse where like it goes totally dark. And these nasty creatures that live underground swarm up to the surface. And so the deal with this is that if you're a service to self person and you're just trying to live in normal times, it's already a harsh planet, and you're like, F you, I'm going to take and steal and kill you to get your stuff. That's already a rough road. But the deal is when it goes pitch dark for that year or two, if you want to remain service to self and refuse to cooperate with your fellow beings on the surface, you're all fucked. Pardon me, effed. And so that apparently is like, that's what I think. And that, basically the law of one, we all get to go back to one. Some of us prefer the more direct route, and others want to go the more roundabout route. And some people will, for some reason, want to run the other way for however long they're going to run. But then they'll also get to experience the karma stick and get beat in the face with it if they want.
Yeah, if I may, it's all the same, like with the metaverse, and also like Rudolf Steiner, he has the eighth sphere. All right. So again, it's all the same, depicted differently. So we're all experiencing it to understand it, because it's really that. It's exactly that. It's like the splitting of worlds that people talk about it too. Like, there's different narratives that say pretty much the same thing. So,
Hey everybody, we have a lonely Susan down here that hasn't had a chance to talk, and I hate looking at her, and she looks so sad down there. So come on, Susan, shine your light on us a little bit.
My head hurts today, and I've been getting hit. So I had a regression earlier, and I was so nauseated. So that's why I'm in the dark now between the headache and that. But I'm also getting hit in the descending colon, which is just increasing the nausea. But anyway, her regression was pretty cool because she was. I remember being in Atlantis and dying there when the earthquake came before the flood, and this young lady was in Mu, and that was pretty interesting. She tried to escape, but with a couple children, and they were under attack. She said, I haven't really looked into the history of Mu because I don't resonate with it. I don't know if anybody else got anything on that, but
it's like with Lemuria, right? That's with
Yeah.
Lemuria.
yeah, Lemuria, Mu, it's all
Rob, what's up, dude?
Yeah, it's like a section of Lemuria.
What's up, guys?
and-
How's everybody doing?
Hey, Rob. We're good. We're good. We're hearing from Susan about how she may have lineage and connections and recall of Mu, but doesn't in particular resonate with Mu. And we're just talking a little bit just the context. My understanding is Mu was part of Lemuria, more like the Pacific side versus Atlantis, which is
No,
more.
it wasn't my regression. I do regression.
Oh, for her, this
This is
person.
a client of mine.
Okay,
I
got it.
remember dying in Atlantis, but I don't.
Oh,
Move.
okay. So
This was my client talking
got
about
it.
and I kind of felt like they didn't want her to know some stuff today, and that's why they were making me so nauseated. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm just sitting here in the dark. So don't mind me. I'll probably be a little extra quiet.
Okay. So then for the Mu, then your client was in Mu, and you're in Atlantis. And my understanding is the Lemurian side of things was like more a civilization, and I'm sure Arkeem could talk more about this, was more going towards like or being organic and nature, whereas the Atlanteans were more like straight up technological and going that route. And then there was a time period where they were coexisting, and then the Atlanteans were warring with the Lemurians and raiding in to steal the Lemurian priestesses, among other things. You had the Atlantean red crystal tech that Arkeem's drummer friend from Montauk can talk about with Preston Nichols.
Yeah,
So
the
please,
Montauk drummer,
Arkeem,
they call him. He doesn't
please.
don't want to use his name, but
Yeah.
well, he said that there was a Montauk thing, and they were going to use the technology for evil, and then so the technology knew and self-destruct or something like that. And I've heard similar things from other people. I wasn't actually there, but yeah, I used to talk to that guy. I lost his number. I got to find his number.
This is what you told me, Arkeem. You said that this guy would travel around with Preston, like went to at least one or two of the conferences with him. And
Yeah.
at one of the conferences that Preston was going to speak at, as they're walking around like towards like the main speaking hall or whatever, one of the vendors who was like selling crystals or whatever and looked like a wizard
Yeah, or it
dude.
was a speaker or something like that. But it was someone there that people respected and knew who they were. And he was like, "Yeah, you're the one who blew up Atlantis or whatever." He started screaming at Preston. He's like, "You're a monster," and all this stuff. And so like there's this theme where it's like other people. It seems like there's got to be some truth to it because I've heard it more than one person talk about it, and some of the people don't even know each other and stuff. So it just seems like it seems like it's something that maybe actually happened.
Well,
You told me the
You should be, his number should still be in there.
was
and you-
Lemuria? Did they have like 5 underwater cities? Because she was talking about 5 underwater cities that were attacked.
they might have had underwater cities, and they
I'm
depicted
thinking they
underwater
do.
city in Stargate.
If people want to watch, I just did a show on Sunday with Audrey, and she talked a lot about the Mer people. And I'll be honest, I don't remember this, not aware of it, but apparently there's like the Mer people, the underwater people, and there's whole cities underground and stuff like that, or in the water and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess it's like a whole thing, and it's I'm guessing like just using like just I'm not saying from memory, but just using my logic, where it seems like all the legends of like Mer people and Atlantis and all that stuff, they probably were connected to the sea and to the because when you think of Atlantis, a lot of times people think of like Poseidon, they think of like mermaids, they think of like water. You know what I mean? So like I feel like there's probably a connection there, and that's just like an educated guess.
Where was the water planet where we like had domes underwater and lived underwater? Because I remember
that place.
Because I remember doing patrol around the perimeter because I'd go out, but I wasn't wearing scuba gear. I could just.
Oh wow, it's so wild to hear. I remember making music with the people that lived there from that planet.
But I
making
didn't think
music
that
with-
was Lemuria or Mu. But yeah.
That might have been off planet too, and then there might have also been underwater cities during the time of Mu. And you said, I remember this was about 2 years ago, almost, Arkeem, when you're sharing this memory from the Montauk drummer guy. It was apparently they were at Montauk. You guys opened up like a portal to like a control room in this main city of Atlantis.
Yeah. The story is they opened up a portal, they went in there, and there was a whole team. And somebody literally said to Preston, they're like, "Hey, don't touch that because there's this orb, like crystal thing." And it's like, a lot of that ancient technology, you literally touch it and like interface with it with like your mind, your body, your auric field or whatever. And as soon as that evil fuck touched it, because it was like the city was alive, it knew that if it was being infiltrated,
It was red
like,
crystals, red crystal technology. So it's like these red crystals that he touched that they said don't touch the red crystals. And
I
he
don't know if
touched
it was
the
a
red
red
crystals.
one or not.
So I heard.
I don't claim that I was there for this. It's just from the story that the Montauk drummer told me. But yeah, he just said that there was like some crystal, and everyone was like, "Don't touch that," and then he did, and then all of a sudden it's like off in the distance you see like kaboom, and like it was apparently the beginning of the fall. But also, I want people to, according to John Whitberg's testimony, Atlantis was gonna fall anyway, and we went in there when it was happening. So I don't know if we knew because of time travel it was gonna fall, and we went in there as it was falling to raid for technology and get stuff, and not have like any really moral consequence, quote unquote, because it was about to.
They show this in Loki. They show this in the show Loki, exactly that concept, and the Doctor Who, and or the Montauk Project, and the Montauk drummer in Preston. That's the scenario. Sorry, Archie, but yeah, it's depicted in all these shows, and it's real. And here you are talking about this like before, without even seeing this stuff, and it's like it just shows the disclosure in there. It's kind of such a big joke.
Brian, I wanted to give you a confirmation too. You mentioned about a red crystal. Sarah Bressman Cosme, she wrote a book on like Atlantis, and that girl Jen she put under hypnosis. They talked about red crystals in Atlantis too. You know, it was a big thing she came up to in her hypnosis. So something about red crystals, you know.
Has anybody heard of the Farsight Institute's remote viewing project in Atlantis, where it actually talked about a technology that they were using that used the crystal to make electricity? And what they were doing is that they found anomalies in satellite pictures that they explored. It was off the coast of Morocco, and there were some drill holes that looked like drill holes off the coast of Antarctica. So they remote viewed these two areas, and what they found was there was an ancient civilization. They connected it to the Lake Toba disaster, which is a volcano in Lake Toba that they credit with a huge eruption that created a mass extinction event, leaving 2,000 to 10,000 mated animal pairs and human pairs. Actually, I think those were estimated to be human pairs. And then they had other animals. They were saying roughly 2 to 10,000 each of those, because when they analyzed their genetics, they could tell that we've all descended from a small number of ancestors at a certain point in history. And what they found was they were off the coast of New Zealand, which is the thinnest place where the Earth's outer layer is, the crust. It's also the largest lava flow scab that's on the planet. If you look at the satellite pictures right off the coast, you'll see a massive lava flow that's unmistakable. What they found was they were trying to create a new form of electricity, or not a new form, but a new way to generate it. And they were going to use the Earth's the heat of the Earth's core. So they drilled a hole or a series of them down through the crust, and they got all the way through. And I guess they were going to pump water through there or something. That wasn't in the remote viewing study. But what they found is that once they did that, they realized it was going to blow, and they gave everybody about 3 days notice. And when this exploded, it was the explosion was the size of like Australia. And it just rained down asteroids because the lava shot out from the hole and went into the outer atmosphere. It froze and just rained down asteroids like hunks of rock. Then you had massive, huge waves that went from one side of the planet to the other. And the worst part about it is when you blew out one side and let the pressure out of the ball, the antipode, which was right off the coast of Europe, all of that sunk down close to 14,000 feet. And that's what they were remote viewing, was ruins. And there was an underground facility that was still intact. It was underneath the ocean floor that was originally above ground, or actually above the ocean. And there was a huge room, like a stadium-sized room that had a city in it, and it had a hologram on the ceiling of the sky. So it was a full-scale underground facility that they created, or they made for for such a disaster, but it didn't help them because they went straight down, all the way down 14,000 feet below the surface. And they described riots, civil unrest to the extreme. People were trying to get into the facilities. They were being shot at. It was just absolutely horrible. So that actually and here's the catch. There's been a Japanese company that's been trying to drill a hole through the Earth's crust for some time over the ocean, and they can't get it to work because the drill bits snap, or the whole apparatus starts to break because the ship will actually drift. So they've been actually trying to pop the balloon again, but yeah, that's something that they came up. I mean, something that they found that, and they did describe a crystalline type of reactor for energy purposes. So I thought that was interesting.
Do you think it has to do with Tartarian tech, like the old world?
I would say Atlantean tech or Tartarian tech comes later, and I would say more Tartarian tech would be like the chicken and the egg, and be more like the egg being Atlantis and the chicken being Tartaria. That's the way I would look at it, because I think Tartaria came later.
But do you think their technologies are really different with the crystal parts, like the grids and everything? Because me, in the Earth, I do see the huge crystals that would be linked together and, work with the stargates and everything. So I believe that maybe it's the same tech. Maybe they were trying to,
yeah,
like
similar.
had it all, like the information and how to work it and everything, and the tech completely. The other one, I don't know. I'm just,
No, it makes sense, Priscilla. All the crystal technology is linked. Maybe it might be implemented differently. But at Tartaria and Atlantis, maybe
the pyramids and everything, it's all like energy conducting into the grids, and us. I think that certain people, and it's also part of the why they take us. That we our frequency, we're like a key. We're like frequency matching with these technologies. So for sure, there's like that part.
Susan, do you want to talk about anything about left eye implants and the Hulk program and cyborgs and the being a super soldier in the projects?
Yeah, Nathan, the new Nathan, he was talking about having some memories of the left eye thing. And I've had that, and it's a common theme. It's usually related to Kruger. They're probably not the only people who do it, but it's usually Kruger. But yeah.
What's Kruger? I'm not familiar with that.
It's a German time corporation, basically, I guess you could call it. Like, they go to alternate realities. It's a military corporation. They acquire power, and Gabriel Kruger is the head of it. Who is
aren't they like specified in like AI and stuff like that, like robotics, and isn't that like their thing? I'm asking.
They're more into human cloning.
Cloning and higher.
And also just making super soldiers and stuff like that.
And they like to, if you've ever seen that movie with Vin Diesel and Sam Huygen, where the character Sam Huygen plays, he steps back into that spider kind of device that like locks onto him. I had something like that, but it didn't lock onto me. I still have pain. And
I've had somebody in the program send me pictures of their son had the actual marks in their back when they woke up from that thing that latches onto them.
I did too. I get the scars. You can see it because they didn't care. They were like, "F you, we'll mind wipe you," and they wouldn't use anesthesia, so you're screaming while they're screwing this stuff into you. And that one was the worst. But I remember being on because when they helped us, I was on this. It was kind of like a GM plant. It was where I saw Brian, but I was on this assembly line, and they had like this hook, and I'm sitting on the hook, and they had this big hose that they would hook into. It went from my sacral to my solar plexus chakra, and I think some other ladies that were in the whole programs have
Veronica Bartolini,
fibroids and 34, 36 day cycles from whatever they did, because there's still a lot of pain in the abdomen and then the uterus and stuff from where because they would put different colors of goo in there to activate the whole program. I don't remember black one, but I remember green and blue and some other things.
Do you remember pink?
I'm not sure if there's pink. I just remember it felt like you had period cramps when they were doing that too, like real bad ones.
because you said it was painful, and then you said you had recall of me in a white lab coat, like in maybe like the skybox to overviewing office. Veronica Bartolini said a similar thing. Gloria Haas did a clairvoyant viewing for me of like I asked her, "Hey, could you use your remote viewing capabilities?" And so it's not a blind target; it's a targeted. She knew it up front. I said, if I was in the programs, like, what do you see of me in the programs, and how do you see them wiping my memory? And she said that I was in the Hulk program and that I was used as a technician in that program, and I was really good with numbers and figuring out like how much pink goo you needed for stuff like that.
Well, that just verifies what I saw, because I said you worked in logistics and it was like a GM plant. And you were up in the skybox with the white coat, and I was one of the super soldiers. Veronica was on the assembly line too. They helped her. That's why she's having all the health problems she's having right now.
Oh yeah, everyone. She's got a PayPal. She sells books that she makes by hand, like little notebooks, but they're very artistic and beautiful. And she's a super soldier veteran, and a lot of us are probably still being taken. I don't remember jack shit, so I loosely I put an asterisk for myself in that category. Some of you waking up with marks and all of your corroborating testimonies and recalls and memories and times, dates, and places. Yeah, this is the SSP Brady Bunch, right, Rob?
Rob.
Rob goes through stuff all the time.
They got him.
Yeah, and like he's always like doing shows, and when we're in contact with a lot of people that are kind of into this stuff, we get a lot of like interactions in the other realms too. So it's important to like try and learn how to have some boundaries and shield up and cleanse your space and stuff like that. My kids are really I'm sorry. And we go.
Still sounds like a reptilian's eating popcorn.
Again?
Yeah.
Crazy, right? I'm sorry.
It sounds like somebody frying chicken to me on my end.
Yeah.
Well, hey, speaking of food, I just wanted to say to everybody that celebrates Thanksgiving here on the show and in the chat, and everybody who hears this afterward, I hope that you all have a great Thanksgiving. And please get along with your family. Don't be like me and, mention politics and religion as soon as you get it in the door. So I don't recommend that. But if you want to follow my path, go for it.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. The politics stuff, try to get along with your family if you can. I think that's important. And it can be hard sometimes, I think. But yeah, it's good to be thankful. It's good to be grateful. First things, I think, and
enjoying family weekends.
This is actually the first time in years and years and years that I've been in the holiday spirit, and I'm actually happy and thankful that I'm wanting to be a part of it this year, because I've rejected it for so long. But this year I was like, screw it, I want to do this. I want to be with my family, and yeah, because I was all into this is a ritual, and you don't know what you guys are putting your energy into, and I don't even know what you're putting your energy into, but I'm not going to be a part of it.
I feel that it's got kind of a weird, history behind it and stuff like that, and where it comes from. But I think it's been turned into a positive thing where it's like I don't think there's anything wrong with like sitting down with your family, eating a big meal, and like being grateful for stuff.
Enjoying a harvest festival.
Yeah.
Let me offer this one. When the scamdemic kicked in, and I warned the other 4 of the 5 family members, I'm number 5 here, right? Don't do it. Don't roll up your sleeves, bloody blah. It's like after that, I knew it was going to happen. My dad's gone now. I wish I'd love to eat Thanksgiving dinner with him. I wouldn't argue politics. And then I know, and I already knew it before he passed, and then I've got confirmation through friends like Kira Ingalls and others who are psychic mediums. I'm very, very gifted and talented at that, and gifted and talented. I didn't even like that though. They're very gifted at that, at psychic mediumship. So I've been able to communicate with my father on the other side since then, and realizing that, you know, it doesn't matter about the arguments, and he understands better on the other side anyway. And it's not like I was going to argue. And what Kira relayed to me is he said that towards the end of it, he was starting to realize that what I was saying about like the Illuminati and bloodlines and depopulation and all this was, and the Losifarians was real. But every time he got too close to really seeing it, he just shied away in horror. That just like blew his worldview. It's like too horribly, utterly terrible. Like no way, can't grasp that. And on the other side, you know, he understands it better, and he's proud of me and all of us for what we're doing. And you know, he didn't think he was going to go that soon. And the his biggest regret is like, you know, he was with my mom for 50 years and seeing how sad she is. But every now and then, like he visits her, especially when she's having memories of the old good times they had together.
How old was your dad, Brian, when he passed?
He passed. He's like 74-ish, maybe. I don't even know his exact. We never celebrated his birthday or anything like that. We had a very non like Western family. Like we celebrated like kids like our birthdays and stuff, but I didn't even know when his birthday was. We didn't. There's a lot of stuff we didn't talk about. My family, my dad had a very fractured upbringing from his own father, who was part of the Chiang Kai-shek contingent during World War II. So he went from mainland China to Taiwan, and then from Taiwan to New York City. And my grandfather and my father, their relationship was always very contentious. That was part of what gave my dad the FU mentality of I'm going to show you, I'm going to be excellent and change. I'm going to rock the world on my own. You're going to see. And then my dad did, you know, started the company Everbasement, went from there. And then that might be linked to the Montauk project too, because it's possible that they might have downloaded some information to my father to help enable him to help me, to help all of us.
Yeah.
I wanted to say there too, you know, I think a lot of our family members and that have passed on are very proud of the work that we're doing. I've received similar messages on the other end, and I hope this is going to be okay with you, Rob. It's something I've been meaning to tell you for a long time, but I was meditating in the backyard one day a few weeks ago, and something came through, and it was at least this is my impression, and I just don't edit it when I get it, but it was your grandfather came through to me, and he wanted you to know how incredibly proud he was of you, and he said that the word was like that you're a real warrior with what you're doing. And I think that's just a nice thing to pass along while we're talking about family and Thanksgiving and all of that.
Well, that's amazing, Dan. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate that. I was just gonna say, like, you know, there's levels to awakening. You know, like when you start talking to like normal people about that, you know, we're being controlled by like a negative, is like a negative alien agenda, and there's frequency fences that have locked into this like holographic matrix. There's not really many ways to escape. You know, not many people want to, you know, and then you add in that the military's doing all kinds of stuff, you know, and then there's entities attacking people and shit like that, you know. There's a lot to take in. Some people aren't ready to be, you know, like if I tell my family that, they'll think I'm crazy. You know, I do tell them that. I'll probably say that tomorrow at Thanksgiving. They'll think I'm insane. But, you know, I think it has to be said.
I enjoy being the authenticity. You gotta be authentic even if people can't handle it, because it's just like maybe later on they'll understand it. You gotta at least plant that seed, right?
And and when they have an experience, you're the first person they're calling up, though. They'll know. So, you know,
I've got my mom to roll around over the years. I mean, she's still like about 2 or 3 years behind everything, but she doesn't think I'm crazy anymore. And she listens about the frequencies and the tech that they're using against us. And she's aware of the voice to God, and she hears it, and she's still scared of everything, but she doesn't think I'm fucking crazy anymore. And we can actually converse, you know, and she's still surface level. I voted for Trump. He's going to help us But then when we get into the deep stuff, she hears me, but I think she's got her altars, and I think one of those altars can hear me, and then she flips over into her other ones. But
kind of sounds like my mom, where like she understands, like we're telling the truth, like we're talking about some real stuff, but she's just like, I don't really know what to say about it though. Like I just kind of, you know what I mean?
I noticed this week because I got this Genesa crystal thing over here that Bill Tyson made, and it's got crystals in it, and it's powered by that violet ray. But when I was in there the other day, because I haven't even had it a week, I could see there's like archonic attachments to me. It was weird because they look like I don't know. They must have had faces like the dead pirates and Pirates of the Caribbean, and they're like slicing and dicing and burning these things out of my aura. But at first I was like, what the heck is this stuff? And that's like when you're talking about levels of awakening, because I've been on my healer mission for the last 15 years, and I'm everything from a Reiki master to cranial sacral therapist to a hypnotist. And I hadn't seen the archons on me before, but I saw them, and they just parasite off of you like other attachments. And I had to cut those off today because I did have one lady where I contract at sometimes. She was telling me and she was terrified because she doesn't know anything about the SSP stuff, but she believes me because she's seen the old man with me too, and we were cutting some stuff off one time. He showed up and he was in the massage room screaming at her, and he looked like a hologram. But screaming at her to stop, and it was some other programming thing. She moved out of my aura. But she was telling me how this thing, one of the estheticians that was working downstairs, she didn't know that you weren't supposed to put multiple mirrors together, and she opened a portal downstairs in the basement part of the office of the building. And when my friend Kelly went down there, her husband couldn't see this archon, but it was all in her face, and she said it was making this metallic noise, and she said it scared the living shit out of her. And he was telling this archon, had this masculine energy, was telling her it was gonna fuck up her husband, and he couldn't see it, but she could. She's like, Susan, I've been never so terrified in all my life. I didn't know who to call but you, because you know all about weird shit, and she's a Reiki master too. But yeah,
what do you mean
when
by
they
the
don't know who to
mirrors?
call, they call me. And I was like, oh shit, that's an archon. I know exactly what it is, but I hadn't seen one threatening me or parasiting off of me. But she had to go in there and take all the mirrors apart, and she's a witch anyway, so she had to go clear the space and sage and Palo Santo. And
so Susan, Nathan's interested in Arkeem's also spoken a lot about this, how mirrors can be used to create portals, and how
right.
in feng shui it says not to do this. You don't ever take two mirrors and stick them like this.
Yeah, we know that, but the esthetician had no idea what she did.
like facing each other. And what happens, Nathan,
yeah, three facing each other.
Oh, geez. Well, we had a similar situation here in this house when we first moved in. The people that we bought it from, they never obviously got the Chinese Feng Shui 101 course either. And so they've got this walk-in closet where in the section it's these two mirrors, and they're just facing each other. Like one's a wall and the other's a wall. And so it's just facing each other with a little bit of offset. And what multiple people, including some of my housemates and business partners, were detecting was negativity was portaling in through this particular thing. And when my one buddy housemate, Vietnam veteran, kind of shaman, first detected it, he saw like this evil kind of like old woman like inside of the mirror. And he kind of like went to like close the portal. Apparently there's ways that you can do this by visualizing the energy and white energy to close the negative portal. She like scratched him, and he like felt it across his heart. And we since taken, you know, I think we left one mirror and moved the other, but it's just, yeah, there really is. Sorry if I just moved my mic back. So, there really is something to that. There's also something people can look up known as the Kazarov mirrors, which is like some Russian scientist did some type of mirror configuration that was leading to reality warping or portal opening in some way. And so you can find, like, the Y Files did a great episode on that.
Also, Glenn, I wanted to add real quick that these entities, they can travel through your electronics. So if you have your phone or your computer on at night and you're sleeping and you think it's all good, it's like, say
We
you
got
have
a story
binaural
about that.
on.
We got a story about that one night.
Yeah, what was happening? I think that's how they were portaling into my studio here, and they were like attacked. They were leeching off me at night.
What was it that happened?
So we were still living at Brian's, and Brian and Liz were away, and it was our job to watch the dogs. So he was going to sleep on the couch out in the hallway, out in the grand hallway area, and I was going to sleep in the bed. And I felt kind of creeped out that night, but I was just like, oh, it's probably just because I'm by myself. It's whatever. So I went to bed, and at like 1:15 in the morning, I was having this crazy dream that I dreamt that like him and I were in a house, and there was like this huge. It was a house. There was very open, lots of sunlight, but there was this huge TV in the house. And there were like these fucking grays coming out of the TV in my dream, and I was like pointing to him, and I was like, look, and like I was like, please, effing fucking please look at this. This is happening. And in my dream, like, he wouldn't look at it. He refused to look. And when I woke up, I was like, my finger was outstretched in here, you know, in the waking world. I was pointing at where our TV happened to be. And then as I woke up, he comes in the room, the dogs are all barking, and he had gotten woken up too, and he had a weird feeling. So
yeah, the dogs were all barking.
A TV is a double whammy, because a TV is not only is it electronics so they can come through, but it's also a mirror portal, because a TV is nothing like, if you've heard people say, a TV is a black mirror too. So TV's both. It's, you know, they can get through, probably, I'm guessing, both ways, but that's insane though.
I've always been able to feel entities all my life around me whenever, but like here in the motorhome, this motorhome, it's a 2000, and it has way too fucking many mirrors in it. But so like the galley is like over right here where the kitchen is, and then the hallway goes back to the bedroom, and above the bed is like 2 cabinets to the side, and then 2 cabinets up here, and they're all mirrors, right? And every time I was standing in the galley, I could feel something watching me back from the bedroom, right? And so the 2 cabinets were basically, it's my books and libraries that they open up like this. I just leave them open all the time, and since then I don't feel it anymore. But then you have the wardrobe across from the bedroom that's all mirror, and then you open the bathroom door and there's a mirror right there. And I'm always been like, you know, like the fun house of mirrors, and there's like 12 of me and stuff like that. So and I've always considered that. I'm like, there's too many mirrors in here. I feel like you should cover these up, but I didn't know why, but I just felt it, but I'm doing it now because thank you for all of that. That's wonderful.
Especially when you stay, Nathan, especially if you stay at a hotel or Airbnb, just take one of their blankets and put it over it. Yeah.
I can't. I hate hotels.
Yeah,
I can't stand staying in hotels.
Because I've seen time cops come through a full-length mirror in a hotel room out here in Iowa before I went to settlement on my house, and I woke up and I'm like, did they just drop me off, or are they just checking on me? Did I mess something up? What's going on? And then they were gone. But yeah, you can't really cover up one of those ones that they put on the wall, you know.
I stayed in a place when this the Mexico period that I've talked about before, and one of the things that was in that apartment that I moved into, this perfect apartment for me, in fact, it was all set up, of course, but it was full of way too many mirrors. That was the first thing. I was like, what's up with all these mirrors? And as soon as I knew what I was sort of up against, during that time. I just took them all down. I just threw them all in the cabinets and stuff. But yeah, the mirrors are.
I'm going to figure out how to cover pretty much all of these. That's top of my list now. And I've always suspected it, but I was like, oh, whatever, no big deal.
We know even from our culture, right? Like there's a tradition of people covering mirrors, say, when people have passed on, right? So it's not like we're just bringing this out of nowhere. This is actually very ancient knowledge that our ancestors knew quite clearly.
Under the occult tradition there, apparently it's the spirit of the person is liable to inhabit or haunt, familiarize the area for up to 3 days before passing on. And if they go by a mirror and see themselves in the mirror, because of the whole portal dimension aspect of the mirrors, they could potentially get trapped or sucked into the mirror. And so that's why you want to cover the mirrors. That's the belief. And at first I would have like, superstition, Chinese feng shui, ha ha ha. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to start covering my mirrors, taking them down, which we have done in certain places. Also, I hear a good practice is not to have a mirror facing your bed. And I guess it's like if an entity, good or bad, could potentially use your mirror as a looking glass, do you want them watching you while you're sleeping, of all places?
Same with closets too, though.
Yeah. Oh, then the closet doors with mirrors.
Close it, or just making sure it's closed too. You don't leave it open.
Yeah, I always shut the door. Yeah, I don't like the crack on the closet door.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I was thinking they can make the louche bed. You buy a big, it has like a canopy over, but it's got a mirror in top of it, and maybe some side mirrors to face each other, and maybe a Tesla coil in there. You can crank it up, get it as spooky as possible.
That reminds me of the Dark Crystal and the Skeksis, like stealing the Gelfling's essence with the crystal and everything like that. That movie, the metaphor in that movie is astounding. The Jim Henson cult classic from the early 80s. But anyway, sorry.
The reboot of that is worth watching too. Age of Resistance. It's very
100%.
good.
Yeah,
there's a reason why they didn't let it go into a second season. That tells you everything, because that was fantastic.
And it was brilliant. It was awesome. And then like Labyrinth, that's an incredibly metaphorical and never-ending story and all that stuff. But
well, speaking of Labyrinth, David Bowie in who was the Goblin King in Labyrinth, in interviews, apparently he doesn't even remember making that film. Some people say it's because maybe it's so high on coke or whatever.
He also doesn't remember making the album Aladdin Insane.
Right, and then so who knows? Was it a clone? Because apparently he's in the programs, and I think John Whitberg and maybe you as well, Arkeem, said he's pretty high rank.
I got memories with him.
Yep, and the Spiders on Mars,
Secret Space programs, and part of the music industry, just like how he is on Earth, he's known to be a performer and a part of the music industry, not just on Earth. And he's it's pretty straightforward. I mean, he showed everybody, he told everybody with his art pretty much really blatantly. I think there could be some of this as well. Maybe he was channeling something a little bit. I think that could be an aspect of it, but I do think that I really do think that maybe like he had authors and stuff like that. I mean, he like Ziggy Stardust, that's an alter ego. And you see this a lot with a lot of
Priscilla, can you mute? Yep, if the farty sound was back, that weird.
And it's interesting.
Kind of like an old Sizzling commercial when I was a kid, the low fat stuff.
It reminded me too when you said that, people forget a lot of those big British rock stars, they end up being invited to hobnob with the royals and things like this as well. There's always this, so I think there's a really strong link with the Tavistock and the royals and these things. Like, look at the amount of some of these musicians, and they're able to get the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra to play the music score and all of this. Like this is more than just a simple artistic collaboration.
And what was the name of that sicko that they trusted over there? That like they had him in like all Hollywood. They're Britain's probably in Hollywood and fame, and he ended up like he was like eating people. He looked really weird. You guys know who I'm
The
talking
Jimmy
about?
Savile, do you mean?
Yeah,
Not
Jimmy
the
Savile.
pedophile.
Yeah, he was a fucking creep, man.
And he was right there with them as well, right? Like it's very
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, that's really just the beginning of blowing the lid on all that stuff, and the fact that they're all the royal family's all a bunch of sick fuckers, you know, basically. And it's gonna get worse and worse. I mean, all the information's coming out. It's just a matter of time of, you know, that's what it looks like to me anyway. I mean, like, I don't know. It just seems like there's just too many people who understand what's going on, at least a little bit, to the point where like the deniable plausibility that they used to have is it's starting to shrink and almost go away completely. I think it's getting harder and harder for them to just sweep stuff up.
I saw this great video today that Wired did, actually, an investigation, and it was pretty cool. They were able to go through and they did this huge investigation of looking at all the cell phone data of people that visited Little St. James, Epstein Island. It's amazing. They could track it down to centimeters of where their locations were, all these people. They could see where they came before they arrived at the island, from which destination. They had all of this because I guess there was this metadata that was available that could be purchased. And Wire, it's not like Wire just went, oh, we're going to do this. They just found the data sets and purchased them and then reconstructed it in visuals for people. But it was absolutely amazing. Like, even certain things about it, like, I don't think regular people are allowed to buy islands for $8 million. I don't think, like, people don't realize that. Like, just because it's commercial property doesn't mean you're going to get it. And that's what
It's an intelligence operation.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, it's U.S. Virgin Islands. Do you think they're going to let somebody buy one of their islands easily? Sorry.
Yeah, they're all part of the, you know, intelligence operatives. They're all spies, basically. They're all.
I saw a video that, and I don't even remember the names, but this person was bringing forth that a lot of these high up billionaires and stuff like that, they actually own property under the ocean floor. Under the ocean, the ocean floor. They own huge plots of land all down there in the Caribbean, because I don't know if he proved this or it was theorized, but like they feel like eventually Atlantis will rise again, and when that land comes back up, there's going to be tech in it and stuff like that they'll have rights to. But it was very interesting and compelling, like why anybody would buy. I'm like, I didn't know you could do that, like buy parts of the ocean floor, like.
Well,
Okay, the Bermuda, but none of that.
The Bermuda Triangle, supposedly there's a giant crystal pyramid down there, probably towards the center of the Bermuda Triangle. Christopher Jacobs has spoken about this, and Joanna Michaels with the lifting.net, how the deal is with the Atlantean Wars. The pyramids were some kind of like energy or portal technology, and it's left over, I guess, from the huge cataclysm where everything got flooded and sunk, and it's still down there and kind of malfunctioning, and that's what's causing these portals and rifts to open, which may account for a lot of the missing planes and ships.
Like some kind of flickering fluorescent light.
And if you go through it, you might end up somewhere else. Yeah.
I have Atlantis memories as well.
You just said flickering fluorescent light, and it brought back a memory. I was in Hampton Roads, and I just came through the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, and when it comes up out of the water, the highway curves to the left, and over to the right is all Norfolk, the biggest naval base in the world. And as I was coming around that curve, somewhere on the base, there was this massive light that was like illuminating. It was almost kind of like a half moon, but it was like highly flickering different color fluorescence, and it was otherworldly. It's not like nothing I've ever seen before in my life. And as I'm driving, I almost wrecked my car. I was like, what the hell is that? And, but
it was the moon.
What's interesting
it
about
wasn't
this
the
area
moon. It was like half, and the light was like arcing out, and but it was straight. It was raised, but it was like highly fluorescent and colors I've never seen before. I don't know. It looked like something you might see at a concert, but it was huge, and it was like, what the hell's going on over on the base? And this was like 1:30 in the morning. It was crazy, man.
There's USOs that go down there all the time on the west coast of Santa Catalina in California, and then on the east coast of like right by where you're saying Virginia. That's where the Nimitz encounter was, which everybody knows as the Tic Tac, but it wasn't just the Tic Tac, because leading up to that Tic Tac event, they saw UFOs for like 10 days. So there's something definitely going on there. I would think there's some kind of base underneath the water, whether it's military or alien or both.
Yep.
You know, I don't know.
Just to add for Nathan there, he mentioned his naval family. Knowing which branch that they work under says a lot too. And like naval is extremely high and tied in with the bloodlines and all of that, right? Like you have the naval, and you look at the language, naval is related to like noble.
Yeah. And I'm busy trying to figure some stuff out, but there's mysteries on that side of my family. That side of my family is extraordinarily wealthy, a lot of money. My grandfather was in World War II. He was a high-ranking officer in the Navy. He had 2 ships sink out from under him in New York in World War II. I know those stories, but when he got out of the Navy, he just started acquiring property and all this stuff and investing in like all this stuff. My grandmother knew nothing about it, to the point that when my grandfather died, she had no idea that she was worth millions upon millions of dollars. And so she's like, well, hell, I'm going to travel the world now. And so, you know, my dad was the only one that had children. He's got 2 brothers. My dad's gone. One of his brothers gone. It's just my grandmother's still alive. She's 100. But apparently there's this huge family trust that is supposed to fall down in me and my brother and sister, but it's this huge mystery. And there's whenever I ask questions about it, I'm like, well, if this is going to fall into me, I need information about it. It's going to be my responsibility. Like, no, don't worry about it. All the lawyers and everything are going to take care of it, everything.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they will.
Well, first of all, Nathan, before your grandma goes, do you know the law firm who's handling the estate and all
I
that?
know nothing.
Oh,
and anytime,
find
my
out.
brother tried to call my uncle, because my grandmother, she's got 24/7 care. She barely knows her name anymore.
Right.
And my brother calls my uncle, and he's like, what is the deal? What's going on? And the only thing my uncle would tell him is, you will inherit, and don't worry about it. Meanwhile, my uncle literally just built an actual castle in San Diego, California. And I grew up very poor. My parents divorced when I was very young. Dad paid his child support.
And your uncle is the one who's got power of attorney in the meantime?
Yeah.
Oh, what do you know?
It costs a lot to build a castle anywhere.
But
Build a castle.
if you guys want the video, it was on the news. Like, I saw the news, my jaw hit the floor. But like, I grew up rather poor. My mom worked her ass to raise us, because they split when I was 6 and stuff like that. But you know, I was never spoiled. I never grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I worked for everything I had, but like, there's always been, one day you're just going to have all this money. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. So I had asked a lady do my astrology, my natal chart, Lolita Caroli. She's excellent. But at the very end of the reading, she said, there's a deep, dark secret on your father's side of the family, and don't dig into it, because if you do, people could die. And that's all she would tell me. She's like, I can't tell you any more than that. And she's like, you can search you could feel your mitochondrial DNA memory. You know something's there. And I'm just all like, and I was watching one of y'all's videos before, and somebody was talking about, I forget who it was. Her name was something dragon. She had something dragon in her name.
Rogue Dragon, that's Amaria Sweet.
Yeah, and she was
very
talking
powerful
about
SSP.
how, like, after World War II and all this kind of stuff, you know, a lot of the guys got offers to them to be loaded into the program. If you look at my dad's life, he suffered just as badly as I did. You know, really, really badly. He was obviously targeted and all of that. And when I heard that video, in my mind, I'm like, Grandpa made a fucking deal, man. I'm like, you don't just get out of the Navy and all of a sudden, like, woo, I got all this property and invested in Hollywood and stuff like that. You don't just get to do that. You have to know somebody before they just let you like into that fucking club. You know, I don't buy any of it.
I don't know if you've read Michael Sala's books, but that would be a good place to look at more about the Navy and the SSP stuff.
One of the things that Dr. Sala put in there was he talked about how, I forget, it might have been under the Eisenhower administration, when they were trying to figure out who was going to run the secret space program, or at least Solar Warden and the ships. They had a debate between would it be the Air Force or the Navy, and apparently they went with the Navy because in the Navy they have an understanding of what it is to be part of a ship and to go down with a ship and all that, whereas the Air Force doesn't have that mentality. And with space, they wanted to treat it more of that naval understanding of space. And then I understand the Air Force, though, they got Montauk and probably the arc jump room technology. And so they got time travel.
When you look at it too, I mean, because the Navy is also the metaphor for this planet, for the naval, for the invasion force, right? Like the whole system, the maritime admiralty system, the ship of state, the commerce system, all of it is built off of Navy because it's talking about something much deeper. And when if you ever talk to people in the military, like when I was in Korea, I would meet people because I lived right next to the base in the middle of Seoul, and yeah, there is definitely different classes. I mean, Army is generally considered the bottom class of the armed forces in terms of like if you're looking at the different divisions, and not that they do less work or anything else. They do the really hard pushing, but the Navy is reserved for the guys whose parents are multi-generation, that have built careers, that come from money, that want to say that they've done things, and there's a whole different level of treatment that they get in terms of like pay, compensation, lifestyle is extremely high in comparison to the other divisions.
I've got a cousin that's in the Navy and he's a millionaire. So
yeah, and so the other divisions secretly hate the Navy, right, Ark? You know. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I don't know anything about that. I just know that I have a cousin who is in the Navy. He has a lot of money. It's from being a dentist, apparently, in the Navy, going through that career.
Oh yeah, that's.
But he's kind of very aloof with our family and acts strange. And part of me wonders if he knows things. And there's all this weird stuff too with that part of my family too, where like my aunt at Thanksgiving was like talking about like she's like, do you remember when the government came to our house when we first moved in here and said something about our water and how we couldn't be living in here, and they got us hotels and they got you guys a separate hotel from us and stuff. And I'm looking at my cousin, looking at my aunt like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like she was looking at it like she was crazy. And my aunt's like, this happened. You don't remember this at all? Like you were like 8 or 9. You should remember this. And she's like, I don't remember any of that. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm thinking to myself, so government people just came in and just whisked them off to a fucking hotel and like made them stay in separate hotels, and then my cousin doesn't even remember it happening. Like they memory wiped of it. Like what the hell's going on here? Like, and he was my cousin Matt, or I'm not shouldn't have said his name. I didn't mean to say it, but well, he's got a different last name than me, so good luck finding him. But anyway, he was also in that family, and I just wonder if like it might just be a coincidence, and he might just have it's just doing really well, and he just has weird. Some people are socially different, and they don't deal with family life as well, and it could just be that. But sometimes I wonder if it has to do with just some of the things that he might know, and he maybe feels guilty because he could get in a lot of trouble, and like people could die if he told them, but maybe he wants to tell them. Because like that happens in the military. You find out about things and you can't say anything about it. And as we know, and like I said, this is all hypothetical. I'm not saying it's true, but I just wonder. Like as we know, a lot of times in these programs, people find like there's a lot of stuff that you if you find out about it, it's pretty bad, and you maybe don't want to share it with the people, and it's unsafe. So yeah, I just wonder. Like and like I said, I don't know if there's an actual connection between the fact that he has a literal known surface in the Navy with nothing weird going on. But I do think that there was some sort of MK Ultra SSP thing that happened there with that situation. Because like, why would my cousins like not? Why would they not remember this? And then my aunt does. The whole thing's weird. And there's just all sorts of stuff like that. If you start looking into my childhood, like I think there's just lots of weird events that don't line up, where certain people remember different things and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just odd. But yeah, I that makes sense that you say that about the Navy being like if the military had a caste system, which I guess maybe it kind of does, right?
It
They're
does.
higher up on the caste.
They are. And it makes sense because generally when you look at, if you have a hierarchical structure, it's narrowing towards the top, right? So there's less personnel. So your army is like the base of the pyramid. And then you have your other services and yeah, very smaller contingent. And they're also in competition with each other. It's not like it's one unified force. Like as I've also had recalls where I was being used as a consultant for Air Force in deciphering alien texts that I've talked about before. And Air Force was coming at me. And I remember, I don't know if it's what was said or there was a bit about what was said, not much, but I think I was picking more up on the thoughts of the officer I was working with at the time. And it was this sense of they're very far behind. Like the idea was like Navy was like way further advanced and than where even the Air Force was in terms of their understanding of things related to ETs, the tech, and everything else. Not that they didn't have any, but if there was a division of the forces that was really working with it a lot, it was Navy. Something other than Air Force in that. But they all do, and they have their competition with each other, just like the intelligence agencies have competition amongst each other because they all want power. And because knowledge is power, they're all trying to hoard the knowledge and then use it and apply it against each other in different
And I think
ways.
that's backfired on them in certain ways. Like I've said before, like I really do believe that the internet, a lot of it has to do or comes from reverse engineered alien technology,
Of course.
and it got leaked through the government through different ways that intelligence agencies assumed, oh, this is the government doing this, and there's this plan, which there kind of is, but I feel like there was like what's going on is like we have this moment where we all can communicate and use the internet as a tool to actually take them out, whereas it is part of their infrastructure. This is why what we're doing right now is so important, is because the internet, they had to build the internet and give us Netflix and YouTube and stuff so that they can have their global control system. That's what it's all for. Real ID and all this crazy stuff that they want to do. That's why they built it. They didn't build it so you could go on Netflix. Like that's not why. Which, by the way, we built the internet structure with our tax money, and now they charge us money for it, even though we're the ones who built it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things too that we know that is clearly out of room, like doesn't match with our technological development, and the big one that gets overlooked is the integrated circuit. The basis of what we use for modern electronics is clearly alien technology, right? That we were nowhere near this level of, even conceptually, of this type of contraption. This level of miniaturization of the integrated circuit was a major leap forward. And when you really look at it and you're working with the languages too, because we were saying about the electronics earlier, like with Robin, that, I mean, it's an L word, right? EL. So this is like electronics is talking about who it's coming from.
Now, Dan, you mentioned earlier, not only do you have recall of being in DUMS and with the Air Force to reverse engineer ET technology, you also mentioned that you have some Atlantis recalls. Can you share any of that?
Yeah. So it was strange because I didn't really identify it as that, but it was very strange, and I think it was also in the period when I was living in Korea. But I remember the layout, these concentric circles, golden concentric circles, one within the other, and like these pathways with it, and it just like whole cities like it. So it's sort of like floating on the water, more or less. And I attended some kind of like academic conference there, and it was the title of our conference was something like circularities and intensities. So when they talk about Atlantis being advanced, it's really advanced too in terms of the concepts that they were building. It was a very rich intellectual culture, a very abstract kind of intellectual culture and we were talking about it earlier. I think I have a strong impression that they were also working a lot with anti-gravitics. And I really think a lot of the floating nature of even the cities in that of Atlantis were related to anti-gravitic technology that they were developing. But they had very it was very strange. Like, you're suddenly like, why am I in like a lecture theater and this is what and I was just getting this recall of sorts, or parallel life, because I really don't look at it as necessarily a past, right? Like what we're doing is we're just sort of like Nathan was earlier, like you just sort of re-experience, and in the moment you're like, wait a second, what's going on here? Because you realize your current consciousness is sort of inhabiting that other consciousness of sorts. And yeah, so that's what I do remember. That's the only one that I can recall at this time, but I think that's interesting in itself.
That's super interesting, Dan, because a lot of people they show depictions of the city of Atlantis, because people say Atlantis was just the city, and then really the whole continent that sunk was like called Appalachia, and then right,
Yeah,
and then now
Appalachia. I got something to add on to that. Yeah,
please, and then just the last thing was with Atlantis, and but the city was like concentric rings, and maybe it might have been they might have modeled other cities, and not just the main capital city of Atlantis. Go ahead, Nathan.
Give me 1 sec, because I got to go get this book real quick, because I'll show it to you, and I'll comment on what you were talking about. 1 sec.
And trust me, when it comes to this stuff, like I don't want to think that it's that. It's only within the last couple of years that I've been able to like finally say, okay, because even when I was in earlier stages of my awakening, I'd be like, I get so annoyed when people talk about things like Atlantis, because I wanted to take like, like how can you prove something like that and other things. And so it's strange how we have to come to these realizations in our own time. Like if you may not always make sense of your memory recalls, but just give it some love and some time, and you'll get there. That's just my message.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, I got to go, everyone. But thanks for having me. It was good seeing everybody. I hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving, and everybody in the audience. And thanks, Arkeem and Nate and everybody, Dan, Brian, and
Hey, thanks for
Priscilla,
being here,
Susan.
Rob,
Every good
man.
seeing you all.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Rob.
Wonderful to see you, Rob.
Hey guys, happy Thanksgiving,
Hey,
Rob.
Rob.
And
Yeah, have a great Thanksgiving.
And remember,
Typical Skeptic Podcast. Go over there, subscribe, like, share it. Please share this channel around, because as you all know, in the audience land, we're very heavily censored and banned grouping here. And so, support. Rob's got a storefront as well. And then I'm sharing a storefront link with him as well. And he supports a lot of people in the community with his work. So yes, please check it out. And thank you for being here.
And I just wanted to say, Rob, hey, we're all proud of you, just like your dad. Well, he didn't hear that, but he will.
Has anyone here looked into Rudolf Steiner's Atlantis info? I personally don't know the name.
Oh, I know Rudolf Steiner, but not the Atlantis stuff. I'm going to have to look into it now.
So you were talking about how it was called Appalachia. When I first moved into the motorhome, I went up to West Virginia into Appalachia, and I never felt more at home. And I've always said there's something about these mountains that there's a spirit here. And I like it. It makes me feel good. Anyway, there's a guy, you might have heard of his channel, the Museum of Tarot. He puts out a lot of interesting information, but he sells these suppressed old newspaper articles and stuff like that. But this is one of them. It's called the Temple in Tennessee, and not far from where I live.
Wait, can you hold that up? Did you hold something up to the screen?
It's called the Temple of Tennessee. I don't know if you can find it online. He sells it at his website for like 10 or 15 bucks.
Okay.
But in 1934, there was a dam that was built over here that made this lake. And I'm blanking on the name of the lake, but it's huge and it's right over here. And the dam that they built was a huge electric turbine. It produces electricity for this area. But anyway, before they did that, they were surveying the whole Clinch River that flowed into it, that created it before they were going to do everything. And these guys came over from like Oxford because they had found this ancient Egyptian temple complex there with obelisk and everything. And there's pictures of it in here, and it was unearthed and excavated. All of this, and it was just all there, and the Smithsonian came in and was just like, poof, no, go away, this doesn't exist anymore. And then they flooded the whole area. And like, I've actually kind of scoped out exactly where it would be right under the lake, and I know right where it's at. But it was interesting because when the Oxford guys were over here, and they were meeting with some of the Native Americans and some of the tribes that were still around here and stuff like that, the name Tennessee, I forget the dialect or how they broke it down, but it means Temple of Isis. And so like, I'm uncovering all this, like living here, and like I love ancient Egypt and all that lore and all that culture and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, it's right here, man. And then Appalachia and Atlantis and just all that kind of stuff. And you look into the stuff over at Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, and they apparently pulled a dragon skeleton out of there way back in like the 1920s and stuff. And the Smithsonian's like, yeah, fuck off. We don't have that anymore. We don't know what you're talking about. All sorts of crazy stuff. But yeah.
Okay, I just want to mention one thing real quick. The Future Forecasting Group and the Farsight Institute, they both did remote viewing projects on that archaeological find that was in the Grand Canyon that they covered up by the Smithsonian Institute. The most intense one is the one that the Future Forecasters did, because they were intrigued by the fact that there's all of these formations that are named after Egyptian, they have Egyptian names. So what they did is they did a more extensive project, and what they found is that, and this is something I was surprised to hear, because everybody thinks the Colorado River created the Grand Canyon, and then you have the creation story where it was a great flood and stuff, and they say that was it. But what they saw was a type of cosmic arc type energy that came from the sky. And when the Farsight Institute remote viewed it was the War on Heaven, or actually it was called the War in Heaven, and that was the what they saw is that Valles Marineris and areas like that, like say like Olympus Mons, for example, they were created by an electrical arc type weapon. And if you look at the Thunderbolt project, which is the electric universe theory, they also talk about something similar to that, but they think that a planet came through and got really close to Earth or Mars and actually created those electrical scars. And they've replicated these electrical scars in a lab by making a soil composition as close to Mars as they could. And then they conducted experiments. So they saw this same thing happen at the Grand Canyon. And then they also, I didn't see the whole thing because some of it's behind a paywall, but from what I could gather, there was a massive pyramid, like a complex that was constructed on the higher portions and possibly in the lower regions of the Grand Canyon. And when they found this archaeological site, which was a cave entrance that you had to go up the side of a rock face to get to, they found a massive indoor rooms that were huge, like stadium size, full of gold artifacts, large ones as well, like maybe 10, 20, 30 feet tall. And I'm sorry, I didn't notice. I thought I was kicked off for a second. Anyway, what I was saying is that after they found this, they realized that this goes back way before Egypt. And this is where the cover up is. There was an ancient civilization cataclysms ago that had the same Egyptian religion. That may be what's going on in Appalachia as well. And anywhere else you would find Egyptian artifacts, because they may not exactly be actually Egyptian. It actually probably comes, and from what we're seeing, that actually comes from a much, much older culture that was wiped out by a massive stage cataclysm, where we had the same exact religions. And that leads back to ET social engineering of the planet, plus the prison matrix system. And it's one of the reasons they don't want anybody to know about it, because it opens up a lot of questions. Why was there an ancient civilization using Egyptian iconography many, many eons ago before Egypt existed?
Because it made us compliant slaves, right, Arkeem? And Arkeem knows all about that. We discussed this on many a show. And the spiritual significance, a lot of us are finding out, was that Atlantis is that apparently many of us live past lives there too. That was the last time humanity attempted to ascend from third to fourth to fifth density, and we failed. Here we are again. And many of the karmic lessons and karmic debt, or however you want to call it, some people say, oh, they don't believe in that, but whatever, maybe just some of the unfinished threads from Atlantis, we're here to sew them up properly and to achieve the ascension. And so that's why a lot of people, like Dan, you fight against like the ideas like Atlantis or Mu and all that. But yeah, Priscilla, you have something to say on that?
I got something to say. And I'm not going to definitively say like this is the case. It's just kind of maybe what I see, what I feel, things I've looked into. I kind of lean towards, you could say it's the belief that ascension happens one by one, and lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Like you couldn't achieve it in one lifetime, but lifetime after lifetime. And whatever this place is, it is a prison, and we're trying to figure it out. But it almost kind of like compresses and tortures the soul to a point that it becomes the diamond, and then it ascends. But I've never really ascribed to the notion of we're all just going to go together, because there's some evil fuckers here. There's some people that don't want to do the work. You have to do this work, and you have to go into this darkness.
They go in the lower timeline. Those are the lower timeline ones. So yeah, not everyone just ascends. No, it's humanity collectively as humanity, but many of humanity aren't going to make it. Or even like my dad, like they're just going to check out before it gets decided.
They go through another cycle, or some of the stuff that I've read. Yes. I kind of ascribe to that, but. And I know you guys are, understand that, and I can say that openly here, but, you go look at the New Age and, like, everybody else, and, like, we're all just going to go. I'm like, no, dude, like, you have to do work. Anything takes work. You don't just, that's another savior complex of, I'll just sit back and eat popcorn, and we'll go when it's time to go. And it's like, and unfortunately, it's horrifying, this work. It's horrifying. It's monstrous. It just is. And
this is why we like to make the distinction between the New Age movement and the Ascension, and like this kind of the soft disclosure and full disclosure, because that line that you would naturally rebel against, Nathan, of like, oh, we're all just going to get along, love and light. That's actually a false light projection. It's a Luciferian thing. So you totally naturally were like, no, that don't ring right.
Under a full mind wipe, under a full mind wipe, yeah, we can all get along again for a short period of time. It's kind of like the idea here. Every time they wipe us out at like a collective level, they're giving everybody amnesia, just like at the individual level. So it's as if there's an AI god of some kind, like an infection within the collective consciousness that is the creator, and that is actually trying to play God with us, and then using us as basically, commodities, like little, like chess pieces, more or less. And we have no value as long as we subscribe to that mentality. So I think I think really the moral of the story is we need to get back to the creator, get back to, loving and respecting each other, which is the whole point of this. And I just wanted to thank Sizzling Priscilla for making her appearance here and bringing all that sizzle. All right, we can't all be muted at once, so who wants
All
someone to
right.
talk?
Well, I'm gonna go feed my puppies before they go nuts over here. I just want to wish everyone a happy Turkey Day, happy Thanksgiving, not so happy Thanksgiving. Full disclosure now, and I'll be in touch with all of you. It's nice meeting you, Priscilla. I don't know if we're Facebook friends yet. If you're online, I'll send you a friend request. And you too, Nathan. I don't think we're friends yet either online.
Yeah, it was nice
I don't do any form of social media at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually even live like outside of cell phone range, and I that's how far they isolated me. I was like, fuck all of this world, and like I'm finally starting to open up again a little bit to it, like tiptoeing back towards it a little bit. But yeah, so but I'll be around for sure. I'd love to talk with all of you
Well,
again.
then you could reach me through
And-
Nathan or Arkeem then.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Awesome.
Likewise,
Thank you.
if you need me, Nathan,
And through
please.
Dan. Perfect.
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks everyone for being here. Really appreciate you guys all coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Really appreciate it, and have a lovely Thanksgiving. Cheerio, mate.
I'll
I
see you
think we
later,
will
everybody.
after this podcast.
I'm just gonna make a couple announcements now, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
All right, well, everybody, thank you for watching the show. I just want to say real quick, I have this Gmail now that I made, so people who want to talk with me can talk with me, and that's really all I want to say. Oh yeah, and the Patreon is $5 now. It's cheaper, helps out the channel. I got some exclusive content over there, and yeah, just happy holidays, everybody. Take care.